Therefore, offenses at the lotus feet of a devotee are serious. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has very strongly recommended that one not commit any offense at the lotus feet of a devotee. Such offenses are compared to a mad elephant, because when a mad elephant enters a garden, it causes devastation. Therefore, one should be extremely careful not to commit offenses at the lotus feet of a pure devotee. Actually, Maharaj Ambarish was not at all at fault. Durvasa Muni unnecessarily wanted to chastise him on flimsy grounds. Maharaj Ambarish wanted to complete the Ekadashi Paran as part of devotional service to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore he drank a little water. But although Durvasa Muni was a great mystic Brahmana, he did not know what is what. I went through this purport 2-3 times, and I liked this particular statement of Prabhupada, that although Durvasa Muni was a great mystic Brahmana, he did not know what is what. I don't know, it's maybe a British way, but it's typical English, Indian English way of putting things in perspective, that somebody doesn't know what is what. That is the difference between a pure devotee and a so-called learned scholar of Vedic knowledge. The devotees, being always situated in the core of the Lord's heart, surely get all instructions directly from the Lord, as confirmed by the Lord himself in Bhagavad Gita 10 chapter 11th verse. Tesham evanukampartham aham ajnanajam tamaha nashayamyatma bhavastho jnanadipena bhasvata. Out of compassion for them, I, dwelling in their hearts, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. The devotee does not do anything not sanctioned by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As it is said, Vaishnavera Kriya Mudra Vikyehana Bhujaya, Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela 2339. Even the most learned or experienced person cannot understand the movements of a Vaishnava, a pure devotee. No one, therefore, should criticize a pure Vaishnava. A Vaishnava knows his own business. Whatever he does is precisely right because he is always guided by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, we are at a very important part of this particular episode. This is the 9th canto, and we are about few chapters away from the glorious dynasties which are being discussed here. 2 dynasties, one coming from the sun, one coming from the moon, Surya Vamsha and Chandra Vamsha. And those important kings coming from those dynasties are being described. I happen to be part of a translation team for the BBT. And the 9th canto, I am very happy to say, was the easiest one because many of the chapters just contain the names. Oh, this king had 13 sons, and the 4th one had 5 sons, and his 3rd son had 2 sons, and went so on and so on and so on. And one day I had a discussion as to what do we gain by reading the names of 200-300 kings? It is Srimad Bhagavatam. We could have had some other episode, some other discussion. So I was told that that's not the way to understand Srimad Bhagavatam. The most important kings were those who were so glorious in their service attitude, in their devotion. Even saying their names is considered purifying. And that is the reason why Srimad Bhagavatam as a Puran has these names. And of course, one of those glorious kings is Ambarish. Ambarish is a very good example of a materially successful person. He is practically the king of the world, super rich, super powerful, influential. He has wealth, knowledge, power, influence. You might say, well, even today's the chief of Amazon, the chief of Google, and the one who owns Microsoft, they may also have wealth, power, and influence. But these powerful personalities of Vedic history, they also have devotion. And this devotion is what put them apart from others. At least during that time, it was fashionable to be a devotee of Krishna. You need not hide your devotion. You were not required to do it in private. None of the leaders of society were against your devotion. But wait a minute. Some of them were. Some of them were. Even in those times, there were powerful people who would be testing the devotion of even someone as powerful as Ambarish Maharaj. And that's exactly what we are reading here. The situation is very, very different from what we have today. A yogi visits a king who's a Vaishnava, and Ekadashi, the 11th day of the waxing or the waning moon, which comes twice a month. Ekadashi is not a modern phenomenon. It is the day of Lord Hari. Madhavati Tithi Bhakti Janani. Bhaktivinoda Thakur sings. Madhav Tithi is the Lord's day. Madhava is Krishna, Tithi is his day. So it could be Janmashtami, Radhashtami, Gaur Purnima. But anything connected intimately with Krishna's pastimes, Bhakti Janani, the mother of devotion. So we do fast, we do read, chant, extra, do some services, depending upon our physiological condition, mental condition. But they are all meant for devotion to Krishna. So the king was fasting, and he was fasting from not just grains and beans, but from everything. He didn't take anything throughout the day. And the next day, as Prabhupada mentions here, there is a parana time. You try to give up your fasting and begin your eating. One very close friend of mine who stays in our Chopari temple here one day told me, any fool can fast, but it takes an intelligent brain to break your fast. He told me many, many years ago, but I still remember that. In the Brahmachari ashram olden days, this story from the Gaudiya Math was very popular, that one fasting brahmachari was just clasping his stomach, slumped down in some corner of the brahmachari ashram, and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, "Hey, why are you not doing anything?" "Oh, Guru Maharaj, I'm feeling weak." And as the story, I don't know what the real thing was, but as it has become folklore, Srila Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, "We are not a fasting mission, we are a preaching mission. Eat something and go out and preach." So that was the deterrent, that don't fast. And of course, in the ashram, some clever brahmachari added a E to the word fasting and said, actually it is feasting. Fasting is feasting, feasting is fasting. So ashram culture was not exactly conducive for fasting. Every day we would talk about some Mahaprasad item or this or that. But Radha Gopinath is very merciful. In the early days when I saw what they were making for Ekadashi, the sago sabji or sometimes just boiled sweet potatoes or one sabudana sago khichdi with big chunks of uncooked potatoes. So the Ekadashi fare was a big support in fasting from grains and beans that day, or a total fast even. Rather than eat that stuff, at least I thought better to fast and gain some bhakti points rather than gain a disturbed tummy the next day. And of course, now our kitchen has gone to great heights and there is actual Ekadashi feast. But thankfully, that training has remained. So I don't have much of a craving. But I would like to thank that kitchen staff 28 years ago who never tried their best to improve the Ekadashi fare. And that's how those of our batch, we became good fasters instead of good feasters. But not in this case here. Ambarish Maharaj, a king, all the royal comforts, but he's fasting. And the next day, according to the proper calculations, his staff tells him that, Maharaj, it is better that you break your fast. There's a small snippet I read somewhere that Prabhupada was given a very heavy kind of breakfast one day, and he complained to the cooks, is it breakfast or break head? This is too heavy. So the very word breakfast means you have to fast and then you have to break the fast. So normally the average person today may be fasting only because he is sleeping. Otherwise, uh, just across Bhakti Center, there is that first on first Delhi. And the first day I had come to Bhakti Center, I had a room which was just facing the street and I was jet lagged. And at 1:55 a.m., I saw a police car came, two cops came out, and they came out with big, huge sandwiches and some milkshake. And I asked someone that people eat at this time of the hour, this hour of the night? And I was told that, oh yeah, a midnight snack is a very favorite item in America at least. And that's why these dailies and others are open 24/7. So that was quite an eye opener. So Ambarish Maharaj had a problem. And the problem was a big house guest, big in the sense, a huge personality, Durvasa Muni, is staying right there with him. And how does he eat something without the guest being cordially invited and the guest breaking his fast? So many cultural complications which do not exist today were there at that time. That even if you are the king, you won't eat anything because you have a guest. And Durvasa Muni knew this. So what did he do? On the pretext of taking a bath or something, he just went out. And the king is just waiting. The time is passing by. His staff is telling him that, Maharaj, you have to break your fast. So then there is like we have a Shastric Advisory Council, something like that. Big, important, intelligent people come together and then they come up with another Vedic solution. The Vedas are quite voluminous, by the way, and there is every shloka for every particular situation you might have. So somebody suggests that if you drink water, that is as good as breaking your Ekadashi and also counts as you haven't eaten anything before your guest. It is there and not there. As in ISKCON lingo, we say when we can't understand something, oh, it is achintya. It's there, but it's not there. So Ambarish Maharaj, just imagine what he has done. He has just taken some water in his palm and sipped it. And that is the time Durvasa Muni, bang, just appears before the whole scene in front of king and said, "You impudent king, how dare you eat something before your guest," and blah, blah, and blah, 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 and blah, 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 blah. And the king is saying, I just waited for my purohits, my brahmanas, to tell me that the time for breaking the fast is coming. How dare you answer me back? So, have you worked at some places where the boss simply doesn't want any explanation? And the boss is always right. And the more you explain, the more you're in trouble. In India, at least in Mumbai, we have a traffic court where if you break some law or park in the wrong place or whatever, then he says, okay, 75 rupees fine. And if you open your mouth, the fine simply goes on increasing. It may not be true now, but if you say, but I was told 80 rupees. Wow, what kind of nonsense is this? 90 rupees. I think you're mad. 100 rupees. So, not exactly like this. And we call that in Mumbai language, Anadi court. That means an illiterate court. But Durvasa Muni, he just went on a tirade. And Ambarish Maharaj is saying, well, what? You're going to punish me just because I drank some water? And before his eyes, Durvasa Muni picks up a hair from his big matted lock, dashes on the ground. Like today, if you do that, what will happen? Nothing practically. But Durvasa Muni is so powerful. Comes a ogre, demon, whatever you call it, something born of that particular city. And he points out that huge guy, tells Durvasa Muni, asks him, what do I do, master? Punish him, kill him. Now, somebody might say, it's just kind of a game. What kind of silly thing is this bhakti process that you perform bhakti, you fast all day, you are a king, and then some meditator or a yogi comes in and he claims that you have insulted him as a guest, you should not have done that, and he's about to kill you. In these words, we find out that it's all a drama kind of thing. In the split of a second, there is Sudarshan Chakra, that very weapon which is in the hands of Vishnu, which is on the top of the Jagannath temple, and which we read about all the time. These are the four main emblems of Vishnu: Shankha, Chakra, Gada, Padma. Shankha and Padma, the conch shell and the lotus, are for benedicting Vaishnavas, and Chakra and the club are for dealing with those who harass the Vaishnavas. Sudarshan Chakra, in a jiffy, in a split second, just obliterates completely that thing which was created by Durvasa Muni. And now the tide turns. Now the game is on. Sudarshan Chakra goes after Durvasa Muni. And Durvasa Muni is frightened, cursing, trying to beseech. He goes to Indra, Brahma, Shiva. They all say, we could have helped, but this is Sudarshan, directly the department of Vishnu, can't do anything. Now, normally, nobody is allowed in the Vaikuntha planets. Certainly, those without any piety cannot go there. But this is a special occasion in which he is actually allowed there. Durvasa Muni goes to Lord Narayan and says, please, the heat is unbearable. I am sorry. I made a mistake. I am sorry. I own it up. I should not have done that. And Lord Narayan says, sorry, man, can't help. And Durvasa Muni said, you can't help? But this is your weapon. He said, yeah, it's my weapon. But there is a mechanism in it. in the sense that when I send it to defend a particular pure devotee of mine, now it is a pure devotee's charge. He can do whatever he like with that Sudarshan Chakra's presence. So I give in to my devotee so much that my personal weapon also becomes their personal weapon. And this is where he utters these words that the pure devotee is always within the core of my heart. And I am always in the heart of the pure devotee. My devotees, my devotees do not know anything but me, and I do not know anything else but them. So we are kind of amused that Krishna can use this kind of language, that I don't know anything but my devotee. So Prabhupada says that, now mind you, I think I had discussed this previously as to, does this accrue to you and me? Like, we are devotees, right? Yeah, for the last 30 years at least, I have chanted 16 rounds. Well, minimum 16 rounds at least, without fail. I don't know a single day when I failed. So if I do something like this, will Sudarshan come for me? Well, at least I'm confessing before the Vaishnavas here that if I am in the position of Ambarish Maharaj, Durvasa won't come. But if I behave like Durvasa Muni, surely the chakra will come. So mostly Prabhupada is talking of a pure devotee in the sense of 24 karat gold. Pure means absolutely pure with a capital P. When we say the great mountain peak of the Himalayas. So Himalaya means the world's tallest mountain range, and Mount Everest means the tallest peak. So sometimes we need to be careful that when Prabhupada says a pure devotee is always in the heart of Krishna, and Krishna says, I always stay in the heart of a pure devotee. My understanding is this is that special pure devotee. Special doesn't have to be rare, although pure devotion is rare. But we who are practicing pure devotion should feel and understand the emotion behind it. So I'll just spend a few minutes about the emotional aspect of this particular purport. I am revisiting that statement which captured my attention. That Durvasa Muni is a great mystic Brahmana. He's a mystic yogi, which means he has some yogic perfections, some yogic siddhis, some becoming smaller than the smallest, bigger than the biggest, controlling material elements, and so on and so forth. Plus a Brahmana, technically higher in the Varna category than a king who's a Kshatriya. Plus a very learned scholar. But the reality is, Prabhupada says, he did not know what is what. Pure devotion is not the domain of a particular Varna or a particular ashram. Pure devotion is pure devotion. There is a nice chapter in Nectar of Devotion called Eligibility of a Candidate for Pure Devotional Service. And on the basis of Rupa Goswami's instructions, it is that Prabhupada said we are claiming disciples all over the world, and we are training them in the art of devotional service. So whoever comes from whatever caste, community, your birth is not a consideration. So that is one major point of this episode, where And look at the behavior of King Ambarish. He could have easily brushed aside. He could have said, I maintain thousands of beggars like you, and you have the audacity to come into my palace, stay with me for one night, and then abuse my hospitality. Nothing of that sort. While Sudarshan was chasing Durvasa Muni, one calendar year passed. And it might surprise you, many of you, the king was standing there at the same spot. All he had taken was that sip of water. He waited till Durvasa Muni came back. And then when Durvasa Muni fell at his feet and said, please save me from this Sudarshan. And Ambarish Maharaj just requested, my Lord Sudarshan, please do not torture him anymore. And Narayan, one who claims that Sudarshan is his eternal weapon, who claimed to be helpless in controlling it. Now that same Sudarshan obeyed Ambarish Maharaj as if you are my real boss, you are the real owner. Sudarshan went away. Durvasa Muni stood there, flummoxed, completely surprised. And Ambarish Maharaj, the only thing he told him was, could you please accept some food? Because all these days of running around here and there, not that he rubbed the insult on him, but he said, for my benefit, please accept something. So I'm just comparing this with Indra and Vritra and these kind of episodes where you actually don't know who is behaving like a Vaishnava and who is behaving like a non-Vaishnava. Again, to prove the point that Vaishnavism isn't anybody's domain. Vaishnavism is simply based on training and culture. And the more we make ourselves amenable for the training and culture, we have a greater chance. I'll end with a small episode from Chaitanya Leela where Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya has a son-in-law who verbally abused Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And there the discussion about this mad elephant comes. Mahaprabhu said, Bhakti is like gaining a plot of land, very fertile, very abundant growth is possible. And painstakingly we chant every day, we serve, distribute books, cook, clean, manage temples, raise funds, do puja. And slowly we have a nice garden over there. And someday all of a sudden a mad elephant comes in. Elephant, that is trouble. Mad elephant is assured trouble, assured destruction. And within our sight, we see there is nothing remaining of that garden anymore. All the fruits, flower-bearing trees, orchards, everything smashed. So that is what Lord Chaitanya told. And he told Amogha, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's son-in-law, with that same mouth that you criticized Vaishnavas and committed offenses against them, that was like drinking poison. You drink nectar. And how do you drink nectar? By praising Vaishnavas. Sometimes I see myself, when I criticize Vaishnavas, it seems natural to me. It's like, oh, he or she is at fault. He is always like that. She always is like that. So that comes natural. But when I'm told that you praise some Vaishnava, my ego says, should I do it artificially? Because I don't feel like doing it. So since it's part of training and culture, Chaitanya Charitamrita Prabhupada says, do it. Do it even if you don't feel like it. Keep on doing it and one day you will feel like it. Hare Krishna, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Mahapuran ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. We have some time for comments, discussions. So, Adipurush Prabhu, some thoughts from your grace.
Well, not from my grace, but Prabhupada's grace. Prabhupada says that, Rupa Goswami says actually, accept things that are favorable, for devotional service and reject what is unfavorable. So this boils down to the relationship with our spiritual master. If we have a spiritual master, if we have a how can I serve you, you know, conversation with the spiritual master, if he gives you prescribed duty, like Krishna gave to Arjuna, Krishna is acting as spiritual master of Arjuna. I want you to fight for me. Don't abandon all desire for gain and safety. Normally we try for gain and safety, comfort. And forget about it. Forget about that and fight for me. This is your prescribed duty. I don't want you to go to the forest and meditate. I don't want you to, walk off the battlefield. There's other, you know, injunctions that say you shouldn't fight against your guru, you shouldn't fight against your grandfather. But in this case, the criteria for you deciding what to do is to take up your prescribed duty and fight for me. So when we have that, then the way is clear. No matter what the reaction, no matter what other people think, no matter what the normal procedure is, uh, if this is what the guru asked me to do, I will do it, come what may, right? So Vasa didn't know what was what. He was acting on his whim, on his idea of what is ethical and normal. But Ambarish Maharaj knew this is my offering to my spiritual master and Krishna. This is my duty. I'm doing this. I don't want to offend him, but I have to do something um, to carry out my offering properly. There are many complications in this world. Many times in the dilemma, it says where some people say do this and some people do that, but what does my guru want? And then we're not entangled in confusing decision making. I'm going to enjoy my time to say something. Doing for service. Go on.
Anyone else would like to ask questions, say something? You can also use the chat box, or you can unmute yourself and ask.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Angelica.
I am curious to know, or I would like you to speak more about this shift that the Sudarshan Chakra wouldn't, it would essentially chase the sage, and then eventually it would kind of just obey him. Can you speak more on like this shift and how that translates to either like his internal change or understanding, or is simply like meant to glorify him and then highlight some of his qualities?
Let me understand you clearly. You are talking about. Can you just clarify what is the shift I mentioned? Because
Oh,
we
the
may be
shift.
having.
What I understood at least was the fact that the Sudarshan Chakra would be used, and then Lord Narayan would say that he doesn't have any more jurisdiction over it because he
Yeah.
gave its power to his devotee. But then at the end, the chakra just like obeys the other sage, which is completely different from how it behaved before.
No, Chakra obeys the king. There is a king who is cursed by Durvasa Muni, and yeah. Lord Narayana sends the Chakra weapon, which is like a blazing disc, and the heat is unbearable. So the sage who has a lot of merit, it is called punya, pious credits, because of meditation and austerity. And on the basis of that, he uses that as a weapon to counteract the effect of Sudarshan Chakra, but of no avail. And then he goes all the way up to Narayan. Narayan says, don't you know that when I release my Sudarshan Chakra to protect a pure devotee, now even I don't have any control. I can't tell it to come back. So Durvasa Muni is more confused. At the same time, he understands the glory of a pure Vaishnava. And then when he comes, falls at the lotus feet of Ambarish Maharaj. Ambarish Maharaj doesn't like that such a great sage, a Brahmana, should fall down. So he said, please, please don't do that, don't do that. And he says, no way, I need to do that. I have offended you, and this chakra is making life miserable for me. So that time, Ambarish just requests Chakra that, Maharaj, O Lord Sudarshan, please don't trouble him anymore. And all of a sudden, Sudarshan just leaves that place. So Durvasa Muni is again more in awe and reverence about the position of a pure devotee. So that's the story. Is there any question about this thing so far?
Um, kind of. I'm just trying to understand what is it like, what's the essence of the story and what it completely like highlights. And one of the things that comes for me is this idea that again the devotee has the Lord in their heart, and the Lord is always in pure devotee's heart.
Are you aware of the story of the king of elephants and the crocodile who captured
Yes.
him? That is another. Are you
Yeah.
aware of that?
Yes.
Okay, so there also Chakra comes in picture in the game, and that time the Sudarshan Chakra just slices off the neck of the crocodile. So that's what Sudarshan does. It's like meant for chopping and killing enemies. There is the 10th canto story of a king, a fake king who puts on styrofoam kind of hands and tells Krishna, you are not the real Vasudev, I am the real Vasudev, and you should hand over all your weaponry, all your paraphernalia. And he said, release everything. And Krishna said, oh, should I release my chakra? Here it is. And because you ordered, the chakra comes, kills him, burns his whole capital to ashes. So that is what the fame of Sudarshan is. And that same Sudarshan, so, I mean, we can't even say it is great, it is powerful. It's as powerful as the Lord. And that Sudarshan, just by one folded hand request from a Vaishnava, it just goes away. Can't you see the point here? How great a pure devotee is in that respect? There is simply no sense of retribution, no revenge in his heart. He doesn't like to see Durvasa Muni being made bereft of his piety, bereft of his pious credit, and is like loitering like a commoner or whatever. So Srimad Bhagavatam also gives us understanding that even if we want to hit back, even if we want to give it back, like all our novels and movies and everything, they are like uh, revenge, revenge, revenge. Vaishnavism is not like that. Why would one seek revenge? Because your heart is empty, normally speaking. You crave for the downfall of your opposite party, and because that will give you some special happiness. But Ambarish Maharaj is giving a sterling example. That's not the case. The devotion about Krishna in my heart, the devotion to Lord Krishna in my heart is so nice. I don't need anything else.
Thank you. That really clarifies a lot.
Welcome. Adipurush Prabhu, yes, please.
Of course, you already explained this nicely, but just to emphasize, if we offend a devotee, it's important to go back to that devotee and ask forgiveness. And if that devotee forgives you, then there's going to be no reaction even from Krishna. And of course, it's important for us to forgive. If somebody asks for forgiveness, you know, and we don't forgive them, that's not very pleasing to Krishna. Then we may have to say, well, you know, you're acting like a tiger, so we have to keep you in a cage, but we do forgive you we're not trying to punish you for your mistake, because everyone makes mistakes. Forgiveness is very important. It's important to ask for forgiveness, and it's important for us as devotees to be forgiving, just like Ambarish was forgiving, even though he was offended horribly. right? Very important for us to be forgiving. If we neglect that, it's not good for us. And if we want forgiveness, we have to go to the one we offended, not just go to Rama or Shiva or Krishna. Anyway, just repeating what you already said, but just a clarification based on her question. Okay?
Thank you, Prabhu. Any other comments or questions?
Hare Krishna Shyamananda Prabhu. Down
Hare
to
Krishna, Tina. Yes.
I guess this is a minor question, but related even to what Adipurusha Prabhu mentioned about, I guess, offending devotees. I found it interesting that you said, if we, even as devotees, Krishna, unless one is pure, 24 karat gold, capital P pure, Krishna wouldn't send a Sudarshan Chakra. However, if we offend a devotee, then he will definitely send the Sudarshan Chakra. But I found that, I guess what struck me was that even if one is not a pure devotee yet, one is still a devotee to Krishna, and we are dear to Krishna. And that, even if one does offend, whether it be one does offend, of course, as Adipurusha Prabhu said, we should ask for forgiveness, but sending the Sudarshan Chakra seems like it's such a harsh and I guess, would he do that to actually a devotee to try to kill them? I can understand as Durvasa Muni, who is not a devotee, he's just a sage, a brahmana, but he's not a devotee. He might deserve that. But we also know that Krishna lessens the reactions of devotees, even if they do wrong or sin. It sounds like he wouldn't do something so harsh. I don't know if, could you just elaborate a little bit more about that?
Okay. Sorry, in the flow of giving a class, I said we will have Sudarshan coming our way. You're right. Krishna loves his devotees. And certainly you are a devotee, I am a devotee. But then we don't think ourselves as a devotee. When Prabhupada was training his disciples, he said, you are Keshava Das, but others should call you Keshava Prabhu. Now, you immediately don't say, like in our olden days, we have seen that sometimes brahmacharis, they come in the ashram, they're not initiated, and then somebody becomes Sri Sachinandan Das. But then I heard one devotee long back telling somebody on the phone, so this is Sri Sachinandan Prabhu here. So he was told that you don't call yourself a Prabhu, others should call you a Prabhu. So you're correct. Krishna loves us. And we should not have the fear that Krishna would do something as harsh as to kill us. That was not my point. Certainly not. It was just meant to bring home another important point, that say somebody tells me, Prabhu, you can't take prasad now. Please, I told you, only 8 people allowed. All right, you have to wait. I can't go sulking in a corner saying that, oh, he has offended me. Oh, Radha Muridhar, please send your chakra. No, that's not the point. I should be ready, as Mahaprabhu tells us, amanina. I should not be expecting honor or privilege or some facility for myself. Manada. I should be ready and eager to give to others. So I'll just change the wording, that when we offend, we can expect reactions. I'm not saying necessarily Sudarshan, but we need to be careful. And I at least caught myself thinking that, wow, if Krishna protects his devotees with Sudarshan Chakra, that means, hey, devotees, please be aware. If you do anything hanky-panky against me, there is Sudarshan waiting for you. No, that won't happen. I should be eager for giving respect to others and expecting none in return for me. That's like the main point. I hope it is clarified.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
You're welcome. So maybe one or two comments, quick comments, or maybe we can wind it up here.
I just wanted to say that as what you just said reminded me how beautifully Krishna always sends messages and lessons our way if we are just open to
Yes.
receive them. And so not even to go into Sudarshan Chakra, even if like sometimes, I would have very offensive thoughts, and then one devotee comes up to me and exactly speaks, a verse that is just like hitting my heart, like
and
really hard.
you immediately understand that Krishna understood my heart and has sent him, and somehow
Yeah.
this is a reminder for me. Yeah, very nice point. Thank you for. Please carry on.
Thank you.
Very much true. So we shall stop here. Thank you all very much. It's always a joy to serve the residents and the non-resident devotees of Shri Radha Mulidhar. Hare Krishna, Vancha Kalpataru Vyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyavacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.